So lately I've been seeing a lot of questions and posts about mulch, and a lot of the recommendations that are being made is to use straw, which is completely normal. It's actually a very common recommendation, and it's actually something that's very commonly used. I want to give you and show you 3 reasons why you should not be using straw as a mulch on your veggies. And I don't just want to tell you, I want to show you so that you hopefully don't run into the same issues I've run into in the past and have run into in this bed that I'm going to show you now. So let's just start off by covering why we need mulch. Plants need a consistent environment to thrive. They need a consistent amount of moisture. They don't thrive with rapid water loss, with changes in soil temperature, with evaporation and all of that happening too quickly. And a mulch is a really good way to create a neutral layer on top. It creates a consistent temperature for your plants in the soil, maintains a lot of moisture, and just gives a healthy organic layer for soil life to absolutely thrive. However, if you put the wrong mulch on your plants, whatever is on your mulch potentially leaches into the soil, which is then absorbed into your plants, affecting them. In this bed, I purposefully put down straw that I got from a local animal feeds shop, and I did this because this is a dead space that we haven't been using. I do plan on using it in the future, and I've put some sacrificial plants in here to show you, every time I use straw, I get the same results. So why should you not be using straw as mulch? The main reason is because of residues, specifically relating to herbicides and pesticides, mainly herbicides. Straw forms part of the wider agricultural market, and as we all know, mainstream agriculture, part of what they do is herbicides, pesticides. It's just part of the process. It's also one of the reasons why a lot of us are doing what we're doing, because we want to limit the exposure to these herbicides and pesticides in what we eat. So when you are buying straw, you are actually buying something that potentially has residues of herbicides and pesticides that then leach into your soil and then affect the growth of your plant. So that's the biggest reason. The second reason, which I'm going to show you, is the amount of seeds that still remain in the straw. Hay is filled with straw, and you shouldn't be buying hay, you should be buying straw. However, even though straw is meant to be seed free and only the stalks, hundreds of seeds still make it through. So if you're a fan of weeding, get straw. If you're like me and you're not a fan of weeding, don't get it. But weeds aside, the herbicides and pesticides are a greater threat to your plant production than picking out little sproutlings of wheat or whatever straw you're busy getting. And now we're going to take a look at what the effects that the straw has had on some of the plants in this bed, and then I'm also going to show you some of the plants planted out in the garden, and also what some of your options are as alternatives for mulch. So I'll give credit where credit is due, and I'll say that straw really works. So if we dig down here, you can see how dark that soil is. It's still nice and moist. So it's really fulfilling its role of keeping the soil nice and moist. But you look here, all of these sprouts. As you go along, you can just see the sprouts absolutely everywhere. And this thing I lift with a fork basically every second week, and they just keep coming back. Okay, so what I'm showing you here is a green Hubbard squash, and this squash was planted at exactly the same time and sprouted as this one in here. This one is just hanging on, but it's pretty much dead. So this plant and this plant planted at exactly the same time, and the only difference is this is used within the straw mulch and that one not. However, you might not believe that, which is perfectly fine. The one thing that you just cannot dispute are these artichokes. So it's been super hot today, and you can see in here that the soil is moist. So it's not a moisture issue, it's just the heat. They'll stand up later. But this artichoke was planted the same time as the artichokes I'm going to show you after this. The other artichokes are about 3 times the size. They are enormous and absolutely thriving. There's another one of them. You can see it's growing, but this plant is about 3 months old, and a plant this size should not be 3 months old. And it's pretty much down to the herbicides and growth inhibitors that are in the chemicals that stop these plants from growing. So these artichokes were planted at the same time as the ones I've just showed you. And you can see there's a huge difference in size. They don't have any mulch, they're actually just directly into the sand, and lots of chamomile that's covering it, and then just a wood chip mulch in the ground. But they're just growing freely, and you can see they are doing really, really well. So what are your options when it comes to mulches? Well, this is a really good mulch that I found to work really well. It is basically old thatch, and I've had no growth issues using this. It insulates really well, and if you see down here, it breaks down very, very quickly. Which is really nice, so it builds the soil structure really nicely. And then another option is to use something like a fine mulch. Now, a fine mulch is just shredded up pieces of wood. It's really, really good. It's quite thick, so the layer on top is quite thick, but underneath this is wet and moist. So the moisture retention underneath is really good. In this bed we've got tomatoes and beans, and I water this bed maybe once every week and a half because the water retention is just so good. And then of course another option for a more natural forest floor look is to use leaves. I use leaves quite a lot just because they don't contain anything. They actually contain quite a few microorganisms, and they work really, really well. So I use that quite a lot wherever I can. I store the autumn and winter leaves in a pile so they can start decomposing a bit, and then as soon as they're exposed to the sun they dry out. But all in all, leaves as a mulch also works really well. So I hope you kind of understand what I was talking about there, and I hope that I've been able to share some information with you that could possibly save you from getting burnt. I've used it a few times. I've tried it, and almost every time I either get growth issues or plants that die. And if you've got any questions, drop them below. If you want to follow me on my journey to becoming more sustainable with how I live, please subscribe. And yeah, like it, share it, so other people using straw can be informed about the possible side effects of the batch of straw that they have. Until next time, happy gardening.